Welcome to today's episode of Dope Conversations. Today, I'm very excited because I have a dear friend of mine, Bill Rossell. Bill, I still remember one of the first conversations we had when we sat next to each other going on the bus out to Tommy's private event when they took us out in the middle of the desert. I think that was one of the first conversations we got to sit down and really talk.
Yeah, I think we thought we were being kidnapped to take out in the middle of and not come back. It was the longest bus ride because I think we were all starving. And it just felt like we were like, where is he taking us to Mexico? And we're not coming back.
I kind of thought it might be like a Tom Cruise mask in the middle of the desert party.
Absolutely. Absolutely. But I'm excited to be here, man. I am truly pumped. And I think that we've had a really good since that bus ride. To the middle of nowhere. Just relationship of what you've been on in your journey and what I've been on my journey, and I think there's a lot of mirroring, and I'm pretty pumped to have some dope conversations today.
It was one of the things I was really excited about, Bill, because I know that you and I have both past couple of years been on a journey of wellness, of growth, of empathy, of consideration. And I think, for me, when I gave up drinking, me and Bryn are just coming up on 3 years. And
Yeah, it's awesome.
when I think about the growth that has enabled, and I don't even go to drinking, Bill, I go to any vice. Is it putting your phone away when you get home? Is it spending intentional time with your family in the morning? Is it pausing before you get reactive with something at work? I think our chapters in life are defined by the decisions we make. And for me, some of the glass ceilings that I look back on that I've been able to break through were only because I spent that selfish or focused time on myself. So, Bill, for you, you've been on a similar journey. You're coming up on how long with no alcohol?
I'm ready to crack 1,000 days, but I'm coming up on 3 years as well. It'll be three.
It's amazing. Congratulations, Bill.
Hmm.
And through that path,
Thank you.
What are some of the things that you've picked up on, that you've learned along your way of just deciding, hey, something was a part of my life for a long time and making the decision to give that up?
Well, the decision to give it up wasn't a decision that I made. It was a choice that I had to make, or I was going to lose the things that are most important to me now that I'm able to see clearly, which is, obviously my wife, my kids, my own perspective. But I think that the question isn't, and everybody's journey is a little different. I didn't go through a 12-step program. I realized that I was going to lose the thing that I cherished the most, and I outpunted my coverage. My wife is a rock star. She and I wasn't drinking because our marriage was bad. It was just one thing led to another, and the hereditary aspects uh, of alcoholism took over. And when you're lying and cheating on your spouse, of hiding shit, and it wasn't that I physically was cheating, I was cheating mentally. The journey was, once the decision was made, a lot of the 12-step programs, activity, apologizing to those people that are dear to you, and taking the opportunity to understand that this thing has a really powerful perspective over me. I didn't go to a meeting. I just realized that that's what I needed to do in the journey and put myself into a position of success, to say, hey, I want to be a better person, and I want to have more intentional conversations and relationships with people like yourself and other people around me, personally, professionally, that at the end of the day, for me, I don't ever want to be in a situation where people look at me and say, man, that guy made a decision, and he's just a drunk, right? And he made an irrational decision because he was boozing it up. If I'm a jerk now in my life, it's just because I'm a jerk. It's the 98% that I'm good. There's still 2% that I'm really not like I struggle with. I'm impatient. I have high expectations, and I become irrational at times. But I'm not perfect, and so I realize that. But I know that I realize it to say, hey, 98% of the time, is what you get is pretty darn good
Could you
because there isn't that factor of things influencing me.
could you ever relate, Bill? Like for me, I always had this like desire that I was like the fun guy, the out of town guy. It was almost like I would put a mask on because both of our travel schedules throughout the year with trade shows, with speaking engagements, with other things can get pretty heavy. And for me, it was like I was one version of myself when I was at home with my family. But the second I knew I was getting on that plane, it was like wild man coming out. Who's coming to the networking party? Who's going to dinner? Who's going to the strip club after? And then I would justify it like, oh, I'm building these relationships at 2 a.m. But then I'm waking up at that trade show. I'm slow. I'm sluggish. I'm not 100%. And I felt like I was putting out there when I would meet people like, this is all I was about. I was this wild card, say anything, go party, have fun. And I want to say, like, there's nothing wrong with drinking or smoking or doing whatever vice that you want to do. But for me, it was like, it went from I was this guy when I was traveling to like, well, that's all anyone saw. The time we spend each other, the networks, all our, our group of like trade show homies and the circle, the cool kid, whatever you want to call it, is like, it's so interesting to me. I think we were talking about this a little back in Florida at your Atlanta show. Was like what I see from 5 years ago, specifically in the home service industry. It's not as much like the partying, the going out, the stuff, but people are like waking up early, meeting up to go to the gym, go on a run, going to get a smoothie, doing the sauna, doing the cold plunge. And it just seems like more of that change in that right direction. Is that something that you see too, Bill, in kind of the audience in the home service space, like more of a change towards wellness and fitness and health?
Yeah, it's funny because when you were saying about getting up early, the only place we were running to 5 years ago from a conference was from the shuttle coming back from Spearmint Rhino to being able to get back to the show showered and out there
Straight
because
up,
we rolled in at 6 o'clock in the morning.
straight up.
Okay,
We've been
we
there
weren't
together.
rolling to the we weren't rolling to the gym at 5:30 in the morning to say, hey, I got to get a workout. I got to be mentally. And so, yes, 100% the people that, I think in a lot of ways, the circle of the homies have all progressed that way to say, hey, that drug of whatever your drug was is now the drug of where the business is and the things that the business does. You get that same entity as far as being able to like say, hey, man, I want to be the best version of myself for my family, my business, and I get high on that aspect of showing my best because I don't have a problem now, Dave. If I'm at an event, I'll shut the bar down. I'm just drinking Cokes.
Yeah.
You know, I'm shutting it down. And I think I actually find it funny to watch the former version of me and a lot of people out there. And, I would be in a scenario where I want them to be successful. And it's not my place to tell them. If they ask me, I'm going to give them the feedback. But boy, I see such a different version of a lot of people that I'm proud to watch when I see the success. Because think about when you stopped 3 years ago and we had that first conversation at Tommy's first event. Look at what the mentality of your business, how it's exploded in what Dope is doing from a technology standpoint, from not just, hey, let's send some cards out.
Sure.
Okay. How do we take next level, best in class technology and apply it to all the things that you've done. You've grown and escalated your business tenfold by stopping this, and your addiction has become this.
You know what I
Your
credit it to?
family, five, the five kids have become this. And it's the same thing that you're donating. your time and energy to, it's just a much more positive environment.
One of the things I really credit it to, Bill, is so you have your physical health, you have your mental health, you have your spiritual health. And for me, I'm a fucking reactive hothead by nature. I am a problem solver. I usually only see what's wrong and I want to fix it really, really fast. And what I've seen is in growing businesses, I mean, Bill, you've gone from yellow pages to different home service industries to private equity and deal with everyone in between. And when I think about what has enabled me to grow my business is only the investment I've made in my personal growth. And I'm not perfect, but I put
One,
the work in every single day. And where I look at that and how it affects my businesses or my relationships is like, I'm a little bit more capable of not being so reactive, of being a little bit more patient, of understanding my delivery and how it affects someone. Bill, think about how many people depend on us or people in our positions during the day, but we only might have one interaction a week or one interaction a month with them. And that's what they take from it. And when we're moving, shaking, Tasmanian deviling all over the place, and you have that one reactive conversation with someone that's maybe not your direct report, that maybe really gets excited every time they get to communicate with you, and you come in hot and you're half on the phone, half paying attention, giving shitty direction because you didn't think it out. It's like every time that I've been able to take a moment, take a step back, and pause just before I talk, just before I communicate with someone, just before I lay out my expectations. It's not something that comes to me naturally, but I realize that, like, remember when we first started out, Bill, and like we could be scrappy and we could make a decision, give it to one person, get something done in a day, go through it. And now a lot of us watching or listening this, you have a bigger team. You have more people involved in the things that you're explaining, whether you're as the visionary, as the integrator, as the manager. And it's like Rome wasn't built in a day. The things that you saw when you first started your business or you first started your career that you could get into and get done real fast, well, things have grown. There's more people involved. There's more expectations to communicate. And what I've seen is if I wasn't working on getting better personally through my delivery, through my expectations, through my communications, we never could have grown because I would have been operating the same way and we would have stayed in the same place.
yeah, no doubt. The interesting, my perspective is that you're spot on. We, you know, the circle of influence that I've really tried to focus on is changing that that aspect of saying I need to touch everybody.
Yeah.
All right. I'm trying to touch the people that are going to touch people that are going to touch people.
Yep.
And that I want to make sure that my intention with them is really strong in that connection,
Yep.
both positively and coachingly, so that I can help them. Because, you know, when I have a conversation, and just like you said, sometimes we might have I call it a passionate conversation. People call it
Sure.
direct. I call it passionate
Yeah.
because I'm passionate about what the message I'm trying to deliver at that point in time. What people don't hear is they only hear the passionate conversation. They don't hear that after we had that passionate, direct conversation, they don't hear the softer side of,
Right.
hey, listen, do you understand why we did this? How did I support you through this? They only heard you didn't make the right decision and we're not going to make that decision again.
Yep.
Because if we don't learn from the decisions that we make as far as, you know, the right ones, it's a situation where we're not growing and scaling. And I try to tell the people in my role here at LB Cap is that my job, I have one number one job. The number one job that I have in all these companies and growing them and scaling them is one thing, is to protect you from you.
Let's say that last part again.
My number one job is to protect you from you.
Mm-hmm.
Because if I don't protect you from you, then you're going to hurt somebody else. And your job should be to protect them from them. And if everybody's protecting themselves, okay, in their direct reports or in who they're leading,
Yep.
then nobody will ever get hurt and they'll grow and scale because you're always coaching them along the path of where you're trying to go. So I really only get to affect about six, seven people.
Right.
So the good cop, bad cop, right? That you have to sometimes, I get to be good cop way more
Yeah.
than I used to because the role of the companies now having these eight roofing companies just selling muns, here recently for 36 million to private equity.
Emotions on that,
The
by the
the
way.
the
Yeah.
influence gets smaller and smaller the farther that you go up. But Bill feels he's at the bottom of the funnel, not on the top, because I don't influence the customer. I,
Bill,
I, I if they're talking to me, Dave, something's tragically gone wrong.
absolutely. And one of the many reasons, Bill, why I look up to you is I think you are a lighthouse of building relationships and connecting people. I feel like every time I talk to you or I'm getting a message from you, Dave, I got someone you got to meet. This is my guy. What advice, Bill, would you give to someone who's a couple years into their business that you could tell or give a two pennies on of how to take an approach of building genuine relationships with people in business?
I think that everybody likes honesty, good, bad, when you're right, when you're wrong. And I think that, people are, I think generally speaking, don't set out to harm people. And if I'm sitting in a position as a new business owner a couple years in, I'm starting to have some success. I have to realize that both internally and externally, I'm not going to get where I need to go without other people.
Amen.
As
Amen.
you are a huge fan of one Kobe Bryant, okay, and different hoopsters across the I can put two players on the court,
Yep.
and the worst team of five is going to beat two players all day long, no matter how good they are.
Every
Whether
day.
it's Scotty and Michael on the court, five are going to beat two, even if they're a college basketball team. The point is we go farther together. And that would be the message that I would say is you're only going to grow where you want to go your business. If you're in a situation where you're focusing on how do I build relationships that allow me to build the business, because people will generally give back to help others that they believe and trust in.
So, Bill, through these connections you're making, you guys, Lance, the team at LB Capital, you guys are always on the hunt for good partners, for good businesses to acquire. What piece of advice would you give a business owner that's considering throwing their hat in or saying, yes, I want to consider selling my business to someone like LB Capital or partnering with LB Capital to get out of my own way, to experience some growth, to take this thing to a level that I couldn't? For the business owners listening or watching, what piece of advice would you give of someone looking to start shopping their business for an acquisition?
Well, number one is your books need to be correct. Because the first thing that anybody's going to do is they're going to want to look at your P&L.
Sure.
And if you're taking distributions out the wazoo, and you're the only one that's generating revenue in your business, you really don't have a business, because if you go away, it's a situation where you can't grow and scale. So set the foundations in place. I would suggest that one of the greatest things that we've had the very fortunate aspect, both myself and Lance, is that there have been a lot of great people that have opened their arms. And when I was in digital marketing, it was like, oh my God, I would never show Cristiano, who's I consider a good friend, or
Sure.
Katie Donovan
What up,
at
Chris?
camp. I would never show them what we do. I would never say, come to my shop and see specifically what it is that we're doing, how we're working with people, how we're internally. We would never do that because, my God, somebody might steal your client. But guys like Tommy, guys like Wyatt and Dustin, different companies, McQuillan Brothers in your neck of the woods, they opened their arms to say, hey, go do shop tours. Let us come in. Let's share. There's enough out there that we all can rise together and have an abundance mindset. And I'd say get out there and go see what others are doing to help grow and scale your business. Because if you're doing as a roofer, let's say 1.5 million or 800,000, whatever it might be, and you want to crack that ceiling, go find out what the guy's doing to 2.5, 3 million.
Amen.
If you're doing 3 million, go see the guy that's doing 7 million. He's already equated to the problems that you had. And go out and see. That's the easiest thing that you do is investing in what others are doing. The biggest thing is that I would share with your audience, Dave, is that number one is that everybody wants more leads. Everybody wants this, they want to have better marketing, blah, 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 blah. But what are you doing to invest in yourself to grow your business and scale it? How are you saying, hey, I can be better? Because I always ask this question, how many leads did you have this month? Oh, I had 130. Well, how many did you close? 20. All right. Well, great. You're running obviously at a very low. What happened to the other 100? You had 100 fish come into the boat to feed your family and 100 walked out. Well, you just kept 10 more fish.
Yeah.
You worked so hard to get those fish in the boat. Why are you in a situation where you're letting them go? So, I mean, I think that I would focus on going out there and seeing other businesses that are successful. People will open your doors all day long. If I came to Minneapolis and had a day, I know where I'm going. I know the people I'm going to see.
Sure.
Okay. Because they're going to open their doors to me and say, hey, come over, have lunch. We'll look forward to seeing you. Not because I built a great relationship with them, but because that's what you would do
Of course.
to help others out as far as growing their business. And that's what makes people want to be on your podcast is that you, generally speaking, have an attitude that if I put out good energy in the world, it's a situation where I get good energy back.
Amen.
And that's what makes the world a better place.
Bill, you said something about, these companies and they're looking, one of the things you look at is distributions. Another thing you look at is like how many leads are they generating and is there any opportunity to increase the close rates, look at a system or a process. One thing I always like to talk about with business owners is like, you have to understand your capacity. Everyone always thinks there's this silver bullet or this magic wand or this thing that someone else is doing that's going to like take them to the next level. And one thing I always like to talk with business owners about is like, okay, you're an HVAC company. You got 4 crews in the field or 4 trucks and vans, technicians, whatever, but they're only at 60 or 70% capacity. What could you do more to add more of the same or similar work, the same or similar jobs, the same or similar customers, instead of looking at like, we have to add a new service, we have to expand to a new market, we have to find something that we're doing right now that doesn't exist. It's like, how do you simply look at what you're doing good and improve it and do more of it so you don't have to hire, so you don't have to train, so you don't have to buy a new van, so you don't have to buy a new piece of equipment, but instead look at like, how can we optimize what's currently going on to simply add more? Because one of the things that I feel very strongly about is like consistency creates success. And if we can look at the things that we're consistently doing well and figure out how to do more of those, I think it's so easy coming out of a slower winter season. Spring's here. It's starting to pick up. You're like, oh, I've had these 6 ideas and I really want to try one of them. Well, instead, what if you look at like, how do we add one more job to a crew per day? How do we take that 20% close rate and bring it to a 30% close rate by simply putting our salespeople and our marketing people in a room to see what our salespeople are getting asked so our marketing people can talk about it more so they come in more educated, or any of those other examples. And so I think it's really important to look at when I say, hey, here are all these business owners, they're trying to sell, they're trying to look for an exit, their kids are getting a little bit older. One, as Bill said, you got to have your books clean. There are fractional CFOs, there are bookkeepers. If you don't have a finance person in your business, there are staffing companies in your local area where $100 to $300 an hour, you can hire someone for 2 to 5 hours a week for a month to come in, comb through all your shit, and at least get you together where you can come in and have a rational conversation. As I understand, one thing you don't want to do is bring Bill and Lance a messy P&L that they're having questions on that you don't have answers to.
Look, it's you speak eloquently about the easy things to do. The tough things is people to implement the easy things to long term. I mean, how many times, Dave, you speak all over the country. Okay. You speak all over the country at different events because of the expertise that you've built on marketing, not just direct mail marketing, but marketing, and how to take a business and grow it and scale it through a holistic approach to marketing.
Yeah.
Okay. How many times do you go to an event and you see these people, they're feverishly writing down everything Dave Carroll said? Like they got notes and like taking pictures of your slideshows and like they're going crazy, right? Of all these things. And then you run into them 6 months later because you see them at the next show.
And they're still fucking taking notes.
And they're taking notes, right? And you say to them, "Hey, by the way, did you guys implement that call center changes that you were telling me about when we had lunch at at Freedom?" And the guy's like, "Oh no, we got caught up in some other things." And like, if you don't have actionable items clearly defined of where your goals are, you're going to clearly fail. And then what do you become? Talk. Right? And so to your point, having different perspectives, right? As far as where people are and what they're doing. You don't have to have a full-time accountant that's pulling 150,000,
Correct.
but you're find the best person in a fractional CFO that you might pay for an hour a month.
Yep.
Okay. To just say, speak to me, talk to me, take me through it. I'll pay you $1,000 for your hour's time because you're worth 400 grand.
Yep.
And you're the best at setting me up. I'll pay you $1,000. I heard Tommy say that one time, and it was like so clairvoyant to me to say, I'm going to get the best person to guide me. If I can't afford him, I'm going to get him for 1 hour a month. I'd rather pay somebody $12,000 that's a coach to me to tell me how to 1 hour a month. Give me the best. How be better. And then when I meet with you next month, put me in a position because, here's the crazy part is that I see all these different coaching groups that are out there, right? I see all these coaching groups. The one thing that the coaching group doesn't have is a scorecard that if you fail at from one session to the next, you get booted.
Ooh.
So why shouldn't there be a grade? Because if you're not concerned about the money and why you do a coaching group, if money isn't the object, it's to help people and coach them. If my kid's going off to play football at Moravian College, signed his letter of intent, right? And I heard Saban say it, the best perspective in life that he had as a tool to his advantage was the bench. If you want to be a part of a coaching group and they don't hold you accountable to being coached, then why should you be a part of the group? They're just collecting your money if they're not holding you accountable to a scorecard. Changes the whole perspective of why people should be coached and why they should help themselves improve. If it's not a money game, if it's truly to help you grow your business, if you call me up and you ask for my advice, I'm going to tell you what you need to do. Yep. You get the choice. Don't call me again if you didn't implement it because you wasted your time and my time.
I like to leave these conversations with a quote. Henry Ford, one of the best innovators of our time, he left us with a piece that I think everyone should remember every single day. Whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're right. And so, Bill, as we wrap up this dope conversation, is there any piece of advice or wisdom, being a very knowledgeable individual, that you'd like to leave our audience with?
You won't get there alone. You only get there with others.
Amen, brother. Amen. Guests, thank you.
I was gonna say broke money don't make no money and give you a little Meek Mill quote, but I thought I'd give you something more prolific than that.
Everyone,
I wanted a Nipsey quote, but I don't know any Nipsey to give it to you right off the bat.
It's now what our friend Tommy goes on stage on. Been grinding all my life. Bill, thank you, my man, for joining us today.
As always.
This has been dope.
Pleasure.
Guys, tune in for next episode. We have another guest that is going to drop some wisdom and share some knowledge. Bill, thank you, my friend, for joining today, and we'll see you soon.